at Quail Hollow. We're back on the range watching 2015 PGA champion Jason Day, PGA coach Ryan Adams here. Alongside me I have Barstool Beef, Cody Frankie.
Absolutely, thanks for having me here.
Of course, awesome. Yeah, we got maybe the best angle of Jason Day on the range here, so we're just going to give a little insight on his golf swing. So what have you been seeing here, Beef? It looks like he's just trying to get the feels after a little bit of the rain delay back and get into the sink a little bit.
He was hitting some balls at the target over here on the right-hand side. It looks like he was working a lot more on hitting in certain windows, hitting high balls, hitting low balls with his wedge here. And now he's adjusted over to a target that's more, I'd say, full swing length for what he's looking to do. And now he's just looking at, okay, how can he really dial in his wedge for this week? Obviously, these players, especially coming off the rain delay, they need to get that feel back in their hands as much as they can. And then, being that we're at a major championship this week, right, it's all going to be about how players do out of the rough and how close they can get the ball from the fairway.
Right.
So can they get closest to have 2 putts from the rough? And then can they really, really excel across the field when they're 100 yards out or 150 yards out? Can they stick it to 8 feet and make that birdie putt and start putting some negative numbers here on the card?
Yep. Yeah, this looks like he's switching clubs here, maybe going to something a little bit longer, and I think what you'll see throughout his range session as he progress up through the bag, probably all the way up to long irons, fairway wood, driver, and what you can see here is he's just kind of working on the takeaway and then coming back down, working on the takeaway, and then feeling what that's like at impact. And he proceeds into his pre-shot routine, and then off he goes. And it's just, he's got one of the best swings out here probably on the range today, and we'll just take a look at, looks like he's aiming a little bit further left this time, but choked down a little bit. Just trying to, again, get those feels back after a little bit of a rain delay.
And you're going to see what these players practicing out here on the range, right? Just the routine that they go through to get their body and their mind in the position for them to take good golf shots. You'll see a lot of different real versus feel in terms of them manipulating the club in practice swings for how they want it to try and feel when they go to the golf ball, even if it's an exaggeration, because it gets their body in the right positions and their hands in the right positions to make great strikes and great shots over and over and over again.
Right. Yep. No, that's exactly right. And now he's aiming a little bit further right, trying to get some distances down. And you'll see a lot of players out here on the range just hitting the shots to certain distances because that's what they'll be doing out on the course. So anytime you can replicate specific distances on the range, again, like you're talking about, like that real feel versus real sort of scenario, and you can see he's kind of getting into that pre-shot routine. And for golfers, all over the place, pre-shot routine is totally essential. A lot of people just will get right into their shots and hit it, but pre-shot routine can set your mind right, set your feels right, and just get you in a good flow before you hit the shot.
Well, the other thing, too, that all these players have done on the range already is they know the golf course, they know the yardages, so in Jason Day's mind, I'm sure he's played hole number 1 and hole number 10 different times, so he knows, okay, it's going to be driver 8 iron, right, or it's going to be whatever club combinations work for these players to hitting those shots, and they're just practicing that here on the driving range for us.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure he's... Easy on the name there, Jason. But I'm sure he's just trying to feel, too, like a lot of the times when you go to the driving range, people will just grab a bucket of balls and just take their driver and whack them all until they're gone. But sometimes if you can play a golf hole, like if you know what the holes are going to be when you go out and play, you can actually hit the distances and the shots that you'll need out on the course. So he's probably doing that like in his mind, thinking about, okay, this is, 15th hole or 16th hole, and I'm hitting an iron shot, this is my second shot, and this is what it's going to be like. That's how locked in and dialed in these guys are. And, it's only Tuesday, but you can see he's already kind of pretty focused on what yardage he needs to hit.
Absolutely. And the thing that also sets apart tour players from other amateurs is if these guys have an hour range session, they're spending 30 or 40 minutes of their time hitting wedges and shots from 150 yards and in.
Right.
Whereas you look at your average golfer on the weekend, he has an hour range session. He's spending 55 minutes hitting his driver and 5 minutes getting some water and getting ready to go over the first tee box.
Yeah.
So they are meticulous with their wedges. They're meticulous with their low irons. Obviously, right, he's still going to hit some drivers today and everything. Yep. But if we look at total number of shots that he's going to hit today with his driver or 3-wood compared to, his pitching wedge or his 9-iron, he's going to hit 2 or 3 times more with those clubs than he is with his driver.
Yep. So the thing you just saw there with him exaggerating that impact position is just him basically feeling like, what is this going to feel like at impact? And when you do those rehearsals, it actually helps you. It might not look like it, but it helps you a lot when you. I'm sure he's about to make the same move when he hits this shot right here. But like you were saying earlier, when you do those rehearsal swings, that's why practice swings are so important on the driving range. Is you're figuring out what I need to do to get back to impact in a square club face position.
Yeah, it's almost an exaggeration so that when the actual swing comes up, it's right in line with what he wants to do.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So it looks like he's moved up to a little bit longer of an iron, maybe six iron, I'd say. I can't tell quite, but that's kind of what these guys do. Is they just progress through the bag, and just try to get that same feel, center club face. This is what I'm going to be doing, because when they get out on the course and they have to go out and make birdies, and think about this week, the conditions on the golf course are going to be a little bit softer with the rain. It's going to be imperative to get out to a good start. So he's already thinking about what are the holes I can make birdies on, and what's that going to feel like when I need to make a good swing.
And if you noticed even there, just on the telecast, he was even using his nameplate on the back of the range as a little guide for him for where his toe was, a takeaway, and making sure that he is down the target line that he wants.
We'll just watch this swing here with the longer iron. Yep, that's a nice. I like that what he's doing there with the takeaway. It just gets you in a good position, and then super straight, as you can see, going for that white flag with a little cut probably, but that's probably what he's trying to figure out too, is what's my miss right now. Is like, these guys don't miss by a lot of yardages, obviously, but am I going left? Am I going right? Am I gonna have to play a cut this week? Am I doing a draw this week? Jason's a pretty high ball player. I think he hits a little bit of a draw, but as you saw there, he can also work it left to right too, so.
Yeah, and at this level, though, if you're missing by 5 yards, you might now really put yourself in a poor position, or a position where you have to hit a really good wedge shot and putt to save your score compared to, somebody else that might play it in a different capacity.
And you think about, like, a part of the course, like the Green Mile here at Quail Hollow, where accuracy on 16, 17, 18 is just so imperative, especially with your irons and your second shots, because you really need to avoid the trouble, avoid the water, avoid the heavy rough that will be out here this week. So I'm sure the shot that he's hitting now is maybe even a replica of the 17th tee shot that he'll face with the having to go over the water. Maybe working on a little bit of a cut to kind of fade himself away from the trouble and maybe more towards the center of the green.
You can see now, obviously the backswing is a huge portion of the swing, but he's trying to get his sequencing down so that every single domino can fall in line for him to hit successful shots.
Right.
And that's why you see him working a ton on this backswing takeaway like you were talking about.
Yep. And Jason is super into the visualization and the mindset before he pulls the trigger on any shots. You'll kind of see him, you just saw him there slowly walk into the swing. And I think that's a good tip for golfers who may be watching, is that a lot of the times we just rush into a shot and we just want to get it over with as fast as possible. But Jason does kind of the opposite there, where it's a very silky, it's slow, we're just taking our time into the swing, we're going to take a deep breath, and we're going to visualize a good shot versus being like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to hit this over the green, or I'm going to chunk this or whatever, so.
Yeah, calculated and methodical for sure, right?
Yep, exactly. Wrap it up. Yep. And that's all from this corner of the range with Jason Day. We'll be back more throughout the week with some more coaching tips live from the range here at the PGA Championship.